Welcome to Lesson 4 in Unit 23, Celestial Clocks and Calendars. In this lesson, students will work to answer the question, how can the sun help us tell time? In this lesson, students graph daylight hours throughout the months of the year. They model the Earth's revolution and axial tilt to explain what causes these patterns to occur. Students figure out that the Earth's counterclockwise revolution around the sun and tilt on its axis causes yearly seasonal patterns, including changes to daylight hours and the location of the sun in the sky throughout the year. Students make connections to the storyline by explaining how daylight hours throughout the year and the location of the sun in the sky during the year have helped ancient civilizations tell time. There are several opportunities for math, ELA, and social studies cross-curricular connections throughout the lesson. You can look for specific standard connections in the Unit 23 Teacher Guide. This lesson will take approximately 4 days to complete. To begin the Engage portion, you'll ask students about what they've learned in the last lesson and how you might know what time of year it is. You'll project images that show the position of the sun over different times of the year. You can post and discuss the observatory vocabulary card. You'll then revisit the driving question board and add any new questions and highlight others connected to the learning goals of this lesson by calling attention to questions about how the length of day, location of sunrise and sunset, or the position of the sun in the sky could help us tell time. For the Explore portion, you'll have students fill out questions 1 to 3 of the Sunlight Hours student journal pages. You'll then divide the class into groups and allow them to discuss their answers in order to answer number 4. When students are finished, you'll have them discuss their answers in a group, then have the group report to the class. You'll allow students to work in small groups and research the time of sunset and sunrise on each of their birthdays on a provided website. They'll continue to answer questions on the Sunlight Hours student journal page. You'll then have students access the duration of daylight and darkness tables from timeanddate.com. Students should use the duration of daylight information on the table to find the amount of daylight on the 21st day of each month. Then students should record the information on the Sunlight Graph student journal page. Next, students should use the amount of daylight on the 21st day of each month to create a line graph that shows how the amount of sunlight changes throughout the year. In the Explain portion of the lesson, students will engage in a class discussion. You'll invite students to gather and analyze their observations from the activity. You'll use the provided questions to guide the discussion around how can the sun help us tell time? The goal of this class discussion is to synthesize student learning from the data they collected and turned into graphical displays. You will use the discussion to create the Lesson 4 summary chart. From the discussion, students should understand that ancient civilizations built various structures that places objects at certain positions that line up with the patterns of sunlight made by the solstices. The summer solstice occurs on the longest day of the year, showing the change from spring to summer. The winter solstice occurs on the shortest day of the year, showing a change from fall to winter. To continue the Explain portion, you'll use the tutorial and Earth's Revolution Modeling Instructions, which provide guidance on how to model the revolution of the Earth. This is where students will explain the mechanism for the patterns they observed. You'll ask students questions during the activity and add to the Lesson 4 summary chart. During the discussion, you can post and discuss the orbit, revolution, and season vocabulary cards. You'll also show the students a video about Earth's rotation and revolution. For the Elaborate portion, you'll ask students how they could use daylight hours and the apparent position of the sun to tell the time of year. You'll have students read Ancient Stone Circles and the Changing of the Seasons to learn about how civilizations tracked the changing seasons by observing sunlight patterns. As students read, you'll have them record their takeaways in the Culture Note Catcher student journal page. You can post and discuss the solstice and equinox vocabulary cards. You'll show students several images of ancient civilizations and provide information about their monuments. You'll then ask students what patterns they see and what purpose the monuments serve. For the Evaluate portion, you'll direct students to the Daylight Hours Quick Check Student Journal page and have them complete it. To support student sense-making across the unit, orient them back to the driving question board. Ask students, what did we learn about how the sun can help us tell time? And what new questions do we have? By the end of this lesson, students will have collected and analyzed data on daylight hours throughout the year to reveal seasonal patterns. In Lesson 5, students figure out how stars move across the night sky and how the patterns are caused by the rotation and revolution of the Earth. For the optional Extend, you can direct students to the Daylight Hours Around the World Student Journal pages. You can have students look at the graphs of daylight hours and the seasons of 6 different locations on Earth. Based on these graphs, you'll have students recognize patterns and develop an explanation for these patterns. For more information about this unit, visit myscipartners.com.